Asterisk the moment she said those words, my entire world shifted. As a single father already struggling to raise my son, hearing my boss confess she was carrying my child after our one-night mistake changed everything. If you've ever had your life turned upside down in an instant, you'll want to stay until the end of this emotional journey. Like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell if you enjoy stories about unexpected love, difficult choices, and finding family in the most surprising circumstances. Asterisk. The rain pounded against the windshield as I sat in my car, gripping the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I couldn't bring myself to drive away from the office building where, moments ago, Eliza Montgomery, my boss of 3 years, had uttered 2 words that shattered the careful balance of my life: I'm pregnant. My name is Daniel Carter. At 34, I was finally finding my rhythm as a single dad to my 7-year-old son, Noah. My wife, Sarah, had passed away from cancer when Noah was just 2, leaving me to navigate parenthood alone while nursing my own grief. I'd spent 5 years rebuilding our lives, creating routines, and finding stability. I had sworn off serious relationships, focusing solely on providing Noah with the security and love he deserved. Eliza had been an unexpected complication. As the CEO of Montgomery Design, she was brilliant, driven, and completely off-limits. 10 years my senior at 44, she commanded respect in our competitive industry. I admired her from a professional distance until that company retreat 6 weeks ago, when a night of vulnerability, shared stories, and too much wine led us to cross a line we'd both regretted immediately. We'd agreed it was a mistake. We'd promised to remain professional. And now, she was pregnant with my child. I finally started the car and began the drive to my mother's house, where Noah was staying for the evening. My thoughts raced faster than the windshield wipers could clear the rain. How would I tell Noah? What would this mean for my job? How could Eliza and I possibly navigate this situation? My mother, Grace, opened the door before I could even knock, her expression immediately concerned. Daniel? What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost. Noah came running from the living room, his small arms wrapping around my waist. Dad! Grandma made spaghetti, and I helped with the sauce. I forced a smile, ruffling his dark hair, so much like his mother's. That's great, buddy. Why don't you go finish your dinner while I talk to Grandma for a minute? Once Noah was out of earshot, I collapsed onto my mother's sofa, head in my hands. Mom, I've made a terrible mistake. Grace sat beside me, her weathered hand on my shoulder. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out. We always do. Eliza is pregnant, I whispered, the words still feeling foreign on my tongue. My boss, Mom. It was just one night. We both agreed it was a mistake. My mother's silence spoke volumes. When I finally looked up, her expression wasn't judgmental but thoughtful. Life rarely follows our careful plans, Daniel. You know that better than most. What am I going to do? Noah is finally in a good place. I'm finally in a good place. And Eliza, she's built her entire life around her career. She never wanted children. What did she say she wants to do? I ran my hands through my hair. She doesn't know. She just found out yesterday. She said she needed to tell me right away, but she hasn't made any decisions. Then perhaps that's where you start, my mother said gently. This affects both of you, and any child deserves parents who can at least communicate, regardless of their relationship status. The next morning, I called Eliza and asked if we could meet somewhere private, away from the office. We agreed on a quiet cafe across town, where no one from work would likely see us. She was already there when I arrived, her usually impeccable appearance slightly disheveled. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, and her hands trembled slightly as she clutched her tea. Thank you for meeting me, I said, sliding into the booth across from her. I owed you that much, she replied, her voice steady despite her obvious exhaustion. I'm still processing this myself. Have you thought about what you want to do? I asked carefully. Eliza's green eyes met mine. I've spent my entire life building my career, Daniel. I never planned on having children. I never thought I wanted them. She paused, taking a deep breath. But when I saw that positive test, something shifted. I'm 44. This is likely my only chance at motherhood, and I think I want this baby. Her words hung between us, heavy with implication. I don't expect anything from you, she continued quickly. I understand this complicates things at work, and you have Noah to consider. I can request a transfer for you to another department, with a promotion to ease the transition. No one needs to know about us. Is that what you want? I asked, studying her face. To pretend this never happened between us? To raise this child alone? Something flickered in her eyes, vulnerability, perhaps. What I want and what's realistic are two different things, Daniel. I already have a child I'm raising alone, I said quietly. I wouldn't wish that on anyone, no matter how capable they are. And I wouldn't abandon my own child, either. You have Noah to consider. Yes, I do. And he's exactly why I can't walk away from this. What kind of example would I be setting if I did? I leaned forward. I don't know what this means for us, Eliza. I don't know if there even is an U.S. But there is a child, our child, and I want to be involved. For the first time since I'd known her, Eliza Montgomery looked uncertain. This will change everything. It already has. The following weeks were a delicate dance of private conversations and public professionalism. At work, Eliza was still my boss, still the commanding presence that kept our design firm at the top of the industry. In private, we were two people trying to navigate an unexpected future together. We agreed to keep our situation quiet at work until we figured out a long-term plan. The pregnancy was still early, and Eliza wasn't showing yet. But the morning sickness was taking its toll, and rumors began to circulate when the always punctual CEO started arriving late and disappearing into her private bathroom throughout the day. The hardest conversation was telling Noah. I waited until Eliza was past her first trimester, when the risk of miscarriage had decreased. We decided to tell him together, though Eliza was nervous about meeting my son in this context. What if he hates me? She asked as we sat in my car outside my house. What if he thinks I'm trying to replace his mother? Noah doesn't hate anyone, I assured her, though my own stomach was in knots. And no one could ever replace Sarah. He knows that. Noah was initially confused when I introduced Eliza as my boss and my friend. His small brow furrowed as he tried to understand why my work colleague was sitting in our living room on a Sunday afternoon. Noah, I said gently, sitting beside him on the couch. I have something important to tell you. Eliza and I are going to have a baby together. You're going to be a big brother. His eyes widened, darting between Eliza and me. But, you're not married. And you don't live together. That's true, I acknowledged. Sometimes families look different from what we expect. Eliza and I care about each other, and we're going to care about this baby together, even though we're not married. Like how you and Mommy cared about me, but now Mommy cares about me from heaven, he asked, his innocent question bringing tears to my eyes. Something like that, buddy. Noah thought for a moment, then turned to Eliza with the directness only children possess. Do you know how to make chocolate chip pancakes? Eliza, caught off guard, laughed softly. I'm afraid I'm not very good at cooking. But I'd like to learn, if you'd teach me. Noah nodded solemnly. Dad and I can teach you. It's not hard. You just need to make sure the pan is hot enough. And just like that, a tentative bridge was formed. As Eliza's pregnancy progressed, our relationship evolved in unexpected ways. We began spending more time together outside of work. Doctor's appointments led to dinners, which led to weekends with Noah. Eliza, who had always maintained a careful distance from her employees' personal lives, found herself drawn into ours. The first time she felt the baby kick, we were at the park watching Noah play soccer. Without thinking, she grabbed my hand and placed it on her rounded belly. The intimacy of the moment caught us both by surprise, and something shifted between us, a recognition that despite the unconventional circumstances, we were connected now in a way that transcended our professional relationship. But our situation wasn't without complications. When Eliza finally announced her pregnancy at work, speculation ran rampant about the father's identity. Some colleagues gave me knowing looks, having noticed our changing dynamic. Others were completely oblivious, congratulating Eliza while asking if she planned to settle down with the mystery man. The pressure mounted when the board of directors expressed concerns about Eliza's commitment to the company once the baby arrived. In a particularly tense meeting, one board member suggested she consider stepping back to a less demanding role. "My personal choices have no bearing on my professional capabilities," Eliza had responded coolly. "I've built this company from the ground up, and I have every intention of continuing to lead it successfully." Later that night, she called me in tears, something I'd never witnessed from the usually composed CEO. "They think I can't do this," she said, her voice breaking. "After everything I've sacrificed for this company, they think a baby will make me weak." I drove to her penthouse apartment immediately, finding her curled on her sofa, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd ever seen her. "You are the most capable person I know," I told her, sitting beside her. "You'll prove them wrong, just like you've proven everyone wrong your entire career." She looked up at me, her eyes red-rimmed. "What if they're right? What if I can't do this? I don't know the first thing about being a mother." "Neither did I about being a father when Noah was born," I admitted. "Sarah and I were terrified. We made mistakes every day. But we loved him, and somehow, that was enough." "I never had that example," Eliza said quietly. "My mother was distant. Career-focused. I swore I'd never put a child through what I experienced." "The fact that you're worried about it already tells me you'll be different," I said, taking her hand. "And you won't be doing this alone." Something changed that night. As I held her hand, listening to her fears about motherhood and leadership, I saw beyond the polished exterior of Eliza Montgomery, CEO. I saw the woman who had fought her way through a male-dominated industry, who had sacrificed personal relationships for professional success, who now faced her greatest fear, failing at something that mattered more than any business deal. And I realized I was falling in love with her. The revelation terrified me. I had carefully guarded my heart since Sarah's death, focusing all my love on Noah. The idea of opening myself to that kind of potential loss again was paralyzing. Yet here I was, imagining a future with Eliza and our growing family. I kept these feelings to myself, convinced that Eliza's interest in me extended only as far as our co-parenting arrangement. She had never indicated wanting more, and I respected the boundaries we'd established. As her due date approached, we settled into a comfortable routine. Eliza had dinner with Noah and me several times a week. She attended Noah's school events when her schedule allowed. I accompanied her to birthing classes and doctor's appointments. To the outside world, we probably looked like any expectant couple, but we carefully maintained our separate lives, she in her sleek downtown apartment, Noah and I in our suburban home. Until the night Eliza went into labor, 4 weeks early. Her panicked call came at 2 a.m. I scrambled to call my mother to stay with Noah, then raced to Eliza's apartment. I found her pale and frightened, her hospital bag only half-packed. "It's too early," she kept saying as I helped her to the car. "Something's wrong." I held her hand at every red light, promising everything would be okay, even as my own fear threatened to overwhelm me. The memory of Sarah's final days in the hospital flashed unbidden through my mind, and I pushed it away, focusing only on getting Eliza safely to the hospital. The next 12 hours were a blur of medical terms, concerned doctors, and Eliza's increasingly exhausted state. The baby was in distress. Eliza's blood pressure was dangerously high. An emergency C-section was ordered. As they wheeled her toward the operating room, she gripped my hand with surprising strength. "If something happens to me," she whispered, "promise me you'll tell our daughter I loved her. That I wanted her." "You can tell her yourself," I insisted, my voice breaking. "You're going to be fine. Both of you. Promise me, Daniel." "I promise." They allowed me into the operating room, dressed in scrubs and a mask. I held Eliza's hand as the doctors worked urgently behind the blue curtain that shielded her view. The minutes stretched endlessly until finally, a tiny, indignant cry filled the room. "It's a girl," the doctor announced, lifting our daughter briefly for us to see before whisking her away for assessment. "Is she okay?" Eliza asked weakly, her face ashen. "She's small but fighting," the nurse assured us. "We need to get her to the NICU right away." As they stabilized Eliza, I was torn between staying with her and following our daughter. "Go," Eliza insisted. "Stay with her. Don't let her be alone." In the NICU, I stood helplessly watching as our tiny daughter, barely 5 pounds, was connected to monitors and placed in an incubator. Her skin was translucent, her movements jerky but determined. She had Eliza's nose and, I thought, Sarah's chin. The combination should have felt strange, but instead, it seemed perfectly right, a new life connecting past and future. "She's a fighter," the NICU nurse told me, noticing my worried expression. Premature babies often surprise us with their resilience. For 3 days, I divided my time between Eliza's recovery room and the NICU, sleeping in uncomfortable chairs and subsisting on hospital cafeteria coffee. Noah visited with my mother, his eyes wide with wonder as he peered at his tiny sister through the incubator. "She's so small," he whispered. Was I that small? "No, buddy. You were a bit bigger. Your sister came early because she was impatient to meet us." Noah nodded sagely. "Like when I can't wait for Christmas morning." On the 4th day, Eliza was finally allowed to hold our daughter. I watched as the nurses carefully placed the tiny bundle in her arms, saw the moment of terror in Eliza's eyes give way to something profound and transformative. "Hello, little one," she whispered, tears streaming down her face. "I'm your mom." In that moment, watching the formidable Eliza Montgomery completely undone by 5 pounds of new life, I couldn't hold back any longer. "I love you," I said simply. Eliza looked up, startled. "What?" "I love you," I repeated. "Not because of her, though she's part of it. I love who you are, your strength, your determination, your hidden softness. I love how you've made room in your life for Noah. I love watching you discover this new part of yourself." I paused, suddenly uncertain. I know this isn't what either of us planned, and if you don't feel the same way, I understand. We can still co-parent Anne. "Daniel," she interrupted, her voice steady despite her tears. "I've been falling in love with you for months. I was just too afraid to admit it." Our daughter chose that moment to squirm and let out a tiny squeak, as if adding her approval to this revelation. "We still have so much to figure out," Eliza continued, looking down at our daughter. "My job, living arrangements, how to blend our lives. We'll figure it out together," I promised. One day at a time. 2 weeks later, we brought Olivia Grace Carter Montgomery home, not to Eliza's apartment or my house, but to a new home we'd hastily rented, a middle ground where we could begin building our unexpected family life together. The transition wasn't seamless. Noah had moments of jealousy and confusion. Eliza struggled to balance her return to work with her new role as a mother. I found myself navigating the complex emotions of loving Eliza while still honoring Sarah's memory. 6 months into our new normal, I found Eliza in Olivia's nursery late one night, rocking our daughter and staring out the window at the moon. "She finally fell asleep," Eliza whispered as I untear.